Hello and welcome back to Women's Football Talk, the YouTube channel that brings you all the latest news and stories from around the world of women's football. Now before we get into today's video, make sure you smash that subscribe button and turn on the post notification bell so you never miss a video of ours. So today we are going to be looking at 8 players who are out of contract at the end of this month. Now obviously we know there's a lot more than 8 players who will be out of contract on the 30th of June, but we've just got a select bunch of players here, and I will state this so I don't have to repeat myself throughout the video. These players can obviously still sign new contracts at their clubs or move on for free elsewhere when it comes to the 1st of July. If they move interleague, so if they say go from Manchester United to Chelsea in the WSL, you cannot confirm a deal and talks can't happen until the 1st of July. However, if they are to move away from there respectively to another country, then a deal can be agreed in principle and be announced because talks are allowed to happen. So let's have a look at the list of players, and we're starting off with Mary Earps of Manchester United. Now Earps has been very key for Manchester United since she joined the club when they were just after they were formed. Obviously they had Siobhan Chamberlain in goal first, and then Mary Earps has been pretty much a staple of the team afterwards and very consistent, obviously helping them to win the FA Cup this past season. However, there's been a lot of talks throughout the season of whether Earps will be staying or going at the end of this summer. So for Earps, there was obviously talks back in November, December and a bit into January whether she would go to Arsenal because they were reportedly looking at signing her, but a deal didn't materialise and she obviously ended up staying at Manchester United. Now there's been talks post that and post the January transfer window that she could potentially sign a new contract with Manchester United. Again, that remains on the table. There's even some talk that some clubs in France, mainly PSG, could look at potentially signing Earps. Again, nothing has been confirmed on that stance point. So for Earps, I think it's really big. How do Manchester United go about getting better? Because it's a disappointing season for them. Yes, they won the Women's FA Cup, but they finished in 5th place behind Liverpool and obviously Manchester City, Arsenal and Chelsea. And to go from finishing in 2nd place the season prior, obviously getting knocked out in the qualification process for the Champions League this past season, to then finishing 5th, doing bad in the Conti Cup but only winning the FA Cup. Does that mean she wants to leave, or will she end up staying at Man United, is going to be very key. And I think how Mark Skinner's side go about investing into the team is going to be very key, and what their ambition is and how they aim to get back to the top will be very key for her in terms of signing a new contract potentially. Next up we have is Lucy Bronze of Barcelona. Now this one, for me personally, I think Bronze will potentially end up staying at Barcelona, but it's just one that will take a bit of time to get a new deal signed. Obviously just won the quadruple with them, with that being capitalised off with the Champions League in the win over Lyon at the San Mamés Stadium. She's been absolutely fantastic since joining there. Obviously won a lot of games, won a lot of trophies, as is the way when you play at Barcelona in Spain. She's obviously getting on a bit in age, into her 30s now. How much more does she want to stay at the top level? Because obviously she's won everywhere she's gone, won 5 Champions League titles, so there's not really much left for Bronze to accomplish. It's now just about how happy she is with the rest of her life and what she wants to do. Could she come back to England? Obviously being a Lioness, what options are available to her? You would presume Man City would be the one calling if a move was to materialise back to England, because she's obviously played there before. But then you could look at potential, could she move over to the NWSL and give herself one final challenge over there? Could she move somewhere else in Europe? Obviously all remains to be seen, but I think for me at this minute in time, Bronze would be one I'd expect to sign a new contract at Barcelona, because they're in the bit of their process now of players signing new contracts and staying, so I wouldn't be surprised if Bronze is one there. Next up is Delphine Cascarino of Lyon. Now Cascarino's had her ACL injury, which she only came back from in, I think it was January, February time of this year. She did really well for Lyon in the Champions League and helped them to the D1 Archimet title over in France. So she's been absolutely fantastic since coming back from her injury. And you look at that forward line of her and Kadiatou Diane and Malki Dumine, it's like that is the subplot perfectly for Lyon and how they go about potentially regaining that Champions League title. For now, we don't know who's going to be the new Lyon boss, so could that potentially swayed Cascarino into whether she wants to stay at the club, whether she wants to move elsewhere. That's obviously all very dependent on how Lyon and Michel Kang, who's the main owner of Lyon, looks at how to replace Sonia Bonpasta and Camille Abeli, who was announced as the new Chelsea head coach and assistant manager recently. So Cascarino, for me personally, I think it's going to be a very similar situation to Lucy Bronze. She'll end up staying at Lyon, and it's just about the timing really, rather than going to a new club. Next up, we have Romy Leurte of AFC Ajax. Now, the young Netherlands forward is absolutely fantastic. She's always guaranteeing you 15 plus goals in the throw and Eredivisie for Ajax, and she's obviously been a bit unlucky with not getting too much call-ups to the seniors side, but she's been in and around it, and when she hasn't been in the seniors, been scoring goals for the under-23s. However, I do think it is now time for her to move on to a bigger challenge, move on to a bigger league, because the level of competition really in the Netherlands is just between Ajax and FC Twente, and I think if she wants to become a regular under Andres Jonker at the national team and get a place potentially for them in the Euro 2025 squad should they qualify, then I think a move is on the cards for Leurte. Any club would be looking to get her because you know she's going to score goals. I think a move to the WSL wouldn't be one that's ruled out anytime soon. You look at Manchester United and what's potentially happening there with their forwards. That could be something to look at. Could Arsenal potentially look at her? We've obviously Viviana Miedema going. There's obviously a lot of space for Leurte to fit in, and I think she will do really well wherever she goes. But I do think she's definitely one to keep an eye out, because whoever gets her will get a very top striker. Another top striker who I think will be on the move this summer is Elizabeth Turland of Brighton and Hove Albion. The Norwegian has just been absolutely phenomenal for Brighton, finished as their top goal scorer this past season, scored more than half the team's goals in the WSL, and they were very heavily reliant on her, and I think she's one that is just too good for Brighton and Hove Albion at this point in time, because considering how the rest of the team have been playing, if Turland wasn't scoring, you're like, where are the goals coming from? And when she's scoring, you're like, how is she at Brighton and Hove Albion? And I think it's one way we could see her move. There was some rumours from Emma Sanders of the BBC stating that with Lucia Garcia potentially leaving the club, heading over to Mexico, Manchester United are apparently looking at signing Turland, and I think that would be absolutely fantastic for both Turland and Manchester United to get that partnership. She's still obviously 21, 22 years old, so she's got plenty of years ahead of her and will become a very good striker. Next up is Lineth Beerenstein of Juventus. Now, it's been announced that Beerenstein will be leaving Juventus. Where will she go? I think she probably stays on continental Europe. I don't think she'll come over to the WSL personally. I think we could even see her maybe staying in the Italian league, looking at Roma, one of the Milan teams, potentially Fiorentina could look at signing her. I think, again, a bit like Lucy Bronze, she's getting a bit on in age, into her late 20s, early 30s, and obviously still very class winger and provides the goods for both Juventus this past season and Netherlands on a regular basis. But I do think for Beerenstein it is a move that will likely be happening soon. Obviously now players are in the international window, so you've got they won't be thought about that much, and then afterwards you've got a couple of weeks breaks for talks and that to happen before the second international break in July, and then the Olympics in August, which obviously for the Netherlands they won't be at, so there's that not to worry about. Next up is Courtney Brosnan of Everton, goalkeeper. Now, recently they signed Emily Ramsey permanently from Manchester United. However, Ramsey's been a bit injury prone over this past season, so Brosnan's had her chance to play more. Whether that happens when Ramsey is fully back fit is one I think we'll have a lot of question marks over how Brian Sorensen handles that. Both very top keepers, and it's always hard to keep two top keepers happy, but I could see Brosnan potentially moving elsewhere in the WSL, or even potentially a move over to America and joining one of the teams in the NWSL. But yeah, that one I'm really intrigued to see how that plays out, because like I said, you got a top keeper in Emily Ramsey, and if she can be fully fit, then game time could be limited a lot for Brosnan if she was to stay. So that's one I think definitely to keep an eye on. And finally, we got Teresa Albiria of Real Madrid, the Spanish player. It's been really one of Real Madrid's bright sparks. They've had bits, hits and misses recently. Real Madrid obviously not being as consistent at the top of Liga F. 24 years old. Could she potentially move elsewhere? It is possible, but because you look at how Real Madrid are doing, they're not doing so well in Liga F. Still got some games to go over in the Spanish league, but I think Albia could be someone you look at, a PSG, a Lyon, potentially a Bayern Munich or somewhere in the WSL looking at her, and she would be a fantastic signing for them anywhere in that midfield. And I think she can just control and dictate games where I don't think she's been able to shine fully at Real Madrid this season. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. But like I said, with all of these players, they could sign new contracts at the club, which can be announced at any time. Could move on to a different league, but make sure to keep up to date with all the latest transfer news and stories, that you're following us on Twitter at WF Talks, on Instagram Women's Football Talk, all one word, and we'll have articles out throughout the summer looking at transfers, players that are leaving their clubs and whatnot over on our Substack page. So it's womensfootballtalk.substack.com for all the latest news and stories there. But in the meantime, make sure you like and subscribe on this channel so you never miss a video of ours, and post notification bell is turned on. And in the meantime, we'll see you soon.